Okay, so for the last few years, AI has kind of felt like this big, exciting experiment, right? Well, the honeymoon is officially over. As we start looking ahead to 2026, all that hype is settling into a much more complex, much more high stakes business reality. And that reality is forcing all of us to deal with the really hard parts.
This quote from Bill Wong really just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures this tension we're all feeling. It's like the technology is in a full on sprint, but the rules and the oversight, they're still tying their shoes back at the starting line. And here's the bottom line: you simply can't get to all the incredible value of AI if you're not willing to tackle the risk that comes with it. The two are completely tied together.
So, just how widespread has AI become? Well, take a look at this number 58%. According to the latest data, that's how many organizations now have AI baked directly into their core enterprise wide strategy. And to give you some perspective, last year, that number was only 26%. It's more than doubled in a year. For most businesses, AI isn't some fun little side project anymore. It is the business. But hold on a second. Contrast that massive adoption, that 58%, with this number, only 19%. That's how many companies have actually put a full AI governance framework into place. Just let that sink in for a moment. More than half of all businesses are going all in on AI, but not even a fifth of them have set up the basic guardrails.
This massive canyon between adoption and oversight, that's what the industry is now calling the AI governance gap. And make no mistake, this isn't just some paperwork headache for the compliance department. This is a huge business risk that can expose a company to everything from catastrophic data leaks to serious damage to their reputation. This right here is the central problem that everybody is scrambling to solve.
So how on earth do you solve a problem this big? Well, you start by facing that gap head on. Organizations are finally waking up to the huge risk here, and they're making governance an absolute top priority. And you can see this shift happening in pretty much real time. AI risk management has just skyrocketed up the agenda for leaders. 68% are now calling it their number one operational priority for 2026. I mean, that is a massive jump from just 39% last year. The whole mindset has changed. It's not about fixing problems after they blow up anymore. It's about building in accountability right from the start. But look, accountability is really only one piece of the puzzle. To really, truly unlock what AI can do, you also have to have trust. And that brings us to the second pillar of the solution. We have to establish a brand new standard for trust. And it all boils down to one very clear, very powerful data policy. And that standard is built on a simple but really profound promise: no training on your data. What this means is a firm, rock-solid commitment from an AI company that your data, your information, is only ever used for the specific task you asked it to do. It will never be absorbed into their models for retraining or for future improvements. In other words, your data stays your data. Period. Full stop. Okay, this difference is so important to get. Think of processing on the left as a one-and-done transaction. You ask the AI to summarize a report, it does it, and that's the end of the story. But training over on the right, that's a permanent exchange. Your sensitive data gets fed into the model's brain, and it could pop up again later for someone else to see. The difference couldn't be clearer. With processing, your data is yours. With training, your data becomes part of their product. For any serious business, this is not a nice-to-have feature. It is an absolute non-negotiable deal breaker. And why is that? Well, it's about protecting your most valuable stuff, your intellectual property, your ability to comply with privacy laws, and your competitive edge. I mean, just think about it for a second. If your top secret strategic plans are being used to train a model that your biggest competitor also has access to, you're basically just handing them your playbook. All right, so once we get this foundation of governance and trust right, what does that unlock? This is where things start to get really exciting because it opens the door to a whole new wave of AI tech that just wasn't practical before. So welcome to the era of agentic AI. Now, we're not just talking about an AI that can answer a question or draft an email. We are talking about autonomous systems that can actually understand a high-level goal, create a step-by-step plan, and then go act on that plan out in the world. The huge shift is this: AI is moving from being just a tool you use to being an active teammate that works alongside you. So how does this actually work under the hood? Well, the old way of doing things was to use one single giant do-everything model. But this new agentic model is much smarter. It uses a central controller,
You can think of it like a project manager that delegates different parts of a job to a whole team of smaller, specialized tools and expert models. It's a much more efficient and modular way to handle complex work.
So this brings up a really fascinating question. If these new agents are using a whole bunch of specialized tools, what kind of AI is actually powering them? Is it the same giant models we've been hearing about for the past couple of years? And the answer, maybe surprisingly, is no. The future of these AI agents isn't about those massive, power-hungry large language models, or LLMs. It's about the rise of something else entirely: small, specialized, and incredibly efficient small language models, or SLMs. You know, the best way to think about this is a Swiss Army knife versus a surgeon's scalpel. An LLM is the Swiss Army knife. Yeah, it can do a lot of different things okay, but it's often kind of bulky, slow, and really expensive to run. An SLM, on the other hand, is the scalpel. It is purpose-built to do one specific job with incredible precision. And because of that, they're way cheaper, way faster, and much easier to customize. The big insight here is that for most actual business tasks, you don't really need the clunky Swiss Army knife. You need a whole toolkit full of scalpels. This big shift in technology leads us right into our final trend, and this one is less about the code and a lot more about geopolitics. See, as AI becomes this powerful and this essential, a new global battle is heating up over one simple question: who gets to control it? And that battle is being fought over a concept called AI sovereignty. This is basically the big push by nations and even large companies to control their entire AI ecosystem right there at home. We're talking the physical data centers, the algorithms, and the data itself. It's all about gaining technological independence and being able to enforce your own local rules. And if you want to see just how fast this is accelerating, look at this. Last year, less than half of leaders said data sovereignty was a top challenge. This year, that number has exploded to 72%. This is not a slow burn, my friends. This is a fire that is totally reshaping how global companies have to think about deploying AI. So what this all means is that the era of a single, giant, one-size-fits-all AI model serving the entire planet from one place, that's over. The future of AI in the enterprise is going to be local, it's going to be controlled, and it absolutely has to be compliant with a whole patchwork of different regional rules. So let's bring this all home. AI is getting smaller and more efficient with SLMs. It's getting smarter and more autonomous with agents, and it's becoming more local and controlled because of this push for sovereignty. Every single one of these major trends points back to one foundational need: trust. Which really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about. As all this change is happening, is your organization building the framework of trust you're going to need to keep up?